we can sometimes, runners, overly focus on the things that don't work and often overlook the things that do work. What are the key 5K workouts? And are they different for a new runner versus that runner who's trying to push the envelope to run their full potential?
Yeah, I think the 5K specific workouts that you're going to find really advanced runners doing are just simply too hard for even the intermediate runner to run at their own paces. A good example is you might have a college athlete run something like 6 times 1,000 at your goal 5K race pace with, say, a 400-meter jog recovery. And so your college athlete, that 400 jog is probably only going to take about 2 minutes, and you are running 6,000 meters at your goal 5,000 race pace. That's a difficult proposition. You're doing a high volume at a goal pace, so it's not even technically your current 5K PR pace. It's a little bit faster. It's your goal pace. That's a very challenging workout. Now, even those more advanced runners have to build up to that. You might do 3 times 1,000 at 5K pace, and then you throw in some shorter reps that are at mile or 2 mile race pace. So it's like you get some of that work at 5K pace, and then you just practice spinning the wheels. Okay, let's run 200s or 300s or 400s a little bit quicker. Practice finishing faster than I started. Practice running these paces, that are a little bit faster than your actual 5K pace. It's always good to focus on what I like to call support paces. You have your goal 5K pace, and then you might have your 2 mile race pace and your K or 10K race pace. And so workouts can include a variety of these paces. You can start at 10K race pace and negative split workouts. So the in-between workouts are always hard to talk about because there's almost an unlimited number of ways of structuring those workouts. You could do fartleks, you could do hill workouts, you could be on the track, you can do different types of tempo runs. It's really easy to talk about the beginner workouts and the really advanced workouts. Another classic 5K specific workout that I really like because it gives the runner a longer repetition is 3 times 1 mile at your goal 5K pace with very short 90-second to 2-minute recovery jog. And so what we're trying to do with these 5K specific workouts is basically simulate what a 5K is like, except it's a little bit easier. We're running our goal pace. Yes, we're running, just about the 5K distance, in this case, 3 miles, close enough. But we're getting a little bit of recovery in there. And that can be really helpful from a psychological perspective. It's also really helpful, obviously, from letting your heart rate come down, clearing a lot of that lactate because you are going to be anaerobic running those paces. So it's really important that we get all those exercise byproducts cleared out of the system or as much as possible before we start the next repetition. And these workouts are tough. They're really hard. This is probably another workout that I would not have a beginner do. I think beginners are more likely to achieve good results on either end of the spectrum, right? They're going to do more of the speed development work, short reps, faster paces, but then also some of the longer stuff. They might do a 20-minute tempo run. They might do 3 times 8 minutes at lactate threshold. So they might be on either end of that intensity spectrum. And what's in the middle is basically 5K pace. It's that VO2 max, really difficult work that it's not short enough that you can kind of fake it. Like if you're running a 200-meter repetition, you don't have to be in great shape to kind of fake your way through that workout as long as the recovery is okay. But you also, you're going to be challenged with the tempo runs on the longer side, but not in the same way as that VO2 max work that's in the middle. So I think the beginner runners, those with less experience running very hard workouts, should not run the very specific K workouts. They should stay on either end of that spectrum. And then once it's developmentally appropriate, then they can run those harder workouts. But hard workouts are like the cherry on top. Hard workouts, it's the icing on the cake. The real input of your training is volume. And I think it's the skill work of strides, of those short reps. Jack Daniels might call this an R workout or a repetition workout. We are basically running short reps at very high speed with good recovery. So it's not challenging you from an aerobic perspective nearly as much as a K specific workout, but it's also a lot faster. And so if we can keep that in mind, we can sort of see what level of runner is going to slot into the type of workout that they should be running. So the advanced runner, they can run all the workouts. The beginner should probably stay on either end of the spectrum. And the more experience you have, the closer you can start moving into that center.
That's great advice. I love it. I never heard of it explained like that before, Jay, for the beginner runners. Stay on the outskirts.
Can I add, Todd? It's almost like, the beginner runner isn't going to be running a lot of volume. And what I like to tell runners is that you have to earn your hard workouts. If you're running 15 miles a week, you're not really in a position to run 3 times a mile at your goal 5K pace, because after all, that is 20% of your overall weekly mileage. You don't have the aerobic foundation to handle that kind of VO2 max work, the volume of VO2 max work. And so the level of workout that you're running also has to correspond slightly to how much you're training, your volume of training. Now, of course, some of this can be cross training. We're really talking about aerobic development, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that, your workouts are partly dependent on your mileage. For example, if you want to do 10 miles at goal marathon pace with a 2-mile warm up and maybe a 1-mile cool down, you first have to make sure that 13 miles is manageable, is doable before you do a huge chunk of it at marathon pace. So you can kind of see how the volume is that foundation. Just like strides are the foundation of speed, if you don't have the aerobic foundation, you can't do those really hard specific workouts.